Today's video is addressing a question by one of our lifetime members on Divi University, and this is Paul, Mr. PK. Now, there's two questions here. He would like to write CSS code himself and wants a way to do it. Okay, using SiteKrafter, and also a video that could just go step by step and show how you can set everything up from scratch. All right, so let's dive in and let's dive right into it. So over here, I have a blank website that has Divi installed. That's all I've done. I've just installed Divi. The next thing you need to do to get off on a good start is to install a plugin called Fluent Snippets. This allows us to add snippets onto our websites, and this is where we're going to add our CSS code. So to add it, you can just come over here to Add Plugin and then search for Fluent Snippets. Now, I've already gone ahead and installed it. So you can see here, mine is active. And once you install it, it's going to be over here. The next thing you need to do is to install to create your first snippet. So I'm going to come over here and create first snippet. Next, you want to make sure you select styles and then paste this code right here. Okay. Now we are going to come back to this code in a minute. Next, over here, we want to give this a name. So I'm going to call this SK CSS, SiteKrafter CSS, but of course you can name it whatever you want. The next thing you want to do is to make sure you enable load as style sheet like that. And then I'm going to say create snippet. Great. So now that my snippet is created, the next stage in this process of setting up your website is to add your colors. So over here, I have my tool that helps me generate colors. So let's say I have this as my primary color. Now my primary color here is my main brand color. Think of it as the red for Coca-Cola. Okay. So what I'm going to do, since I have my main color here, is I'm going to cycle through here and choose another color. So I'm going to go with maybe this yellow green here. Okay. So let's add our colors now onto SiteKrafter. So I'm going to come over here. Now there's several ways. There's HSL, HSB, RGB, and so on. But what we need here is HSL. It's very, very important that we choose HSL. So the values that we need are just two values here because SiteKrafter generates the rest for you. So it's going to be 261 and 41. Okay. 261 and 41. So back over here, 261 and 41. Okay, great. Now we need the accent color. The accent color is going to act as, a color that's going to work for our buttons, call to actions, and so on. In this case, I'm going to go with this color right here. So what I'm going to do, just like before, I want to click in here, and here we go. We have 76 and 100. Of course, you can adjust this, the way you want until you pretty much, have it the way you want. So let's go with this. I'm going to go with 83 and 80. Back over here, 83 and 80. Great. So now that we've added our colors, these colors are going to be applied across the whole website. So at any stage, if you want to rebrand, you don't have to go into your site and start adjusting all those colors. It is done here. And this is the power of SiteKrafter. Let's go ahead now and click on update. And we also need to activate this. It's very, very important. So I'm going to click on activate. If you don't activate, whatever we've applied here will not work. Next, you can see here we have our font families. We have Poppins, we have Inter, and Montserrat for our tertiary colors. Now, for some of you, you may find it easier to add your colors in the variable manager. I mean, sometimes I do that as well. So to do that, you can either use this, either or works. But you have to remember that when you make changes here, you need to clear the cache. And there's several places you need to clear the cache. The first place is over here. You come to Divi, and then you go to theme options. Here on the top right, you can see we have clear CSS cache. Now it's done. If you have a caching plugin, You can go in and clear the cache using your plugin. If your caching is done on the server, you also need to do that on the server. Okay. Next, let's head over now and create a new page. So I'm going to come over here and say page, and this is going to be a test page. I'm going to say use Divi Builder, and then I'm just going to close out of here. The next thing I'm going to do now is to set my fonts. So I'm going to come to my variable manager. Now this is option 2, by the way. So we're going to come all the way down here to our fonts. So for my heading, you can see it says Open Sans. I want to change this to Poppins. For my body text, I'm going to change this from Open Sans to Inter. Save, apply changes. Okay. Now, if your fonts do not apply, in fact, let's first of all click on Publish here. And then we're also going to do a hard reset. Now, if your fonts don't apply, you need to make sure you clear the cache. It's very important. Next, we are now going to set up Divi 5 and SiteKrafter to work the most efficient way. But before I do that, I just want to show you that our colors now can work with SiteKrafter. Now, if you want to get the latest version of SiteKrafter, by the way, in fact, I haven't spoken about that. If you want to get the latest version, you want to go to Divi University, and then you want to go to SiteKrafter. Now, this is a specific group for anyone that has purchased SiteKrafter. So you click on that, and you can see here we have the latest version, 7.3.1. Now, usually this will have all the things that were fixed. It'll also have any updates, any information regarding this. Now, when you come here, you can see the download button is right here. You need to click on Sitecrafter Pro. Okay. Once you've downloaded it, you then install it. Installing it is pretty much like installing any child theme. I'm going to exit from here so I can show you how to install that. So let's exit. Right, so installing it, you come over here to Appearance, you click on Themes, and then you want to click on Add Theme, and then just upload it, and then add it over here. Okay, now let's go back to all our pages here and choose the page we're working on. It's the test page. Okay, so let's now test and see if our colors are working. So I'm going to come over here to my section settings, go to Advanced, CSS ID and classes. So my first class here is going to be my background. So I'm going to say BG. Now, if you want the full color, which is for our primary, you need to select 500. So you can see now this is my full color right here. Okay. So with that as my full color, the moment you start adding the other values, so let's go with accent. So I'm going to say BG. Accent again. For my accent here, I'm going to go for 500, and that's going to be my accent color. Okay. Now, if you want the different shades, you can go accent 50, but make sure you remove the one before. So now you have the lighter version. You can go BG primary 300. So that becomes the lighter shade. Now, if you really want to see what is happening here, we are going to now open this in a new tab. In fact, let's exit. I should have opened 2 tabs. It works easier that way. Right. So when you install SiteKrafter, you're going to get an entry over here on the left. So what you want to do is to go to your style guide. This is where you have your colors. So again, this is how your colors are going to be applied. Primary 50 all the way to primary 900. So this will just go up by shade. The same applies to our accent colors as well. It will just go up by shade. Okay, excellent. So now that I have this all set, the next step now is to head over here to my page. In fact, before I go to pages, we also have a reference here. So you can apply your reference, classes by selecting it like that. And we can also do multi-select. So if you want to select text M, you can do that. And then if you want to add a padding to it, you can select that. And then once you've copied all your classes, you can just copy all. So this is going to be your reference in case you're not sure what to do. So here, for example, PT0 is padding top 0. This padding PXS is padding all sides. So you really need to go through this to see what is happening. All right, so now that we've covered this, we also have, we've covered the style guide, we have the reference. There's also a quick start video here in the dashboard. So this also helps. You can just follow this video. It's a quick start video to get started with SiteKrafter. Okay, so now that we've covered this, let's go into SiteKrafter now and go through what you need to do to get started. Okay, so let's create let's go to our page here. So here it is. I'm going to edit with Divi. Okay. So you can see we have our background. We don't need that anymore. Let's get rid of that. So in order for you to work really fast with SiteKrafter, here's what you need to do. Or rather, this is my workflow. So I would go into my columns here, add a text module. Now, what I usually do is I add quite a few of these. Like, for example, I have these 3. So let's go into the first one. Advanced, CSS ID and classes. And I'm going to add my class here, which is SK typography. So this just sets my body text. So in order for us to have a consistent design for our body text, what we need to do after applying the class, you need to come over here to the top, and then you want to create a new preset from current styles and then call this body text. But of course, you can call it whatever you want. Now with this, I'm going to assign it as a default. It's important because I don't need to keep going in and adjusting it and so on. So I'm going to say save preset, and you can see these 2 now have been updated. Excellent. So every time you're going to add body text, it's going to have the same size. Next, sizing is very important in UI design. So when you look at this, you can see that the spacing here is the same. So to go in and manually start fixing it over here, it's going to take you a lot of time. There's a lot of clicking. So what I normally do is I click here on row settings, and then I go to the actual column, go into design, layout, and then I zero out the horizontal gap and the vertical gap. Like that. Same thing over here. Hit enter, and now you can see that the spacing is gone. There's nothing saved now. Next, I'm going to come over here to default preset, and then I'm going to create a new preset from current styles, and then column preset, I'm just going to say 0. Okay, but of course you can name this whatever you want. I'm going to assign this as a default and then save the preset. It's very important that we start working like this from scratch. Now, when you want to apply specific spacing, and this spacing is based on variables. So I'm now going to start off with this middle one here. I'm going to go click on advanced, CSS ID and classes. And this now this is very important. So you need to pay attention to this. If I start adding another class here, it's going to get rid of the original one. Okay, so you need to type it again. So for example, if I say MT for margin top, and now I want my margin top here to be small, you're going to notice that my text has become small. So we just need to type it back in. SK typography. Okay, here it is. So you just need to make sure that it's in there. Next, let's say my spacing here. In fact, let me just copy this so I don't keep typing in. Let's say for this one here, you want to, because we say it's small for this one, let's go medium for this margin top. I'm going to come over here to advanced, CSS ID and classes. So first of all, I'm going to make sure SK typography is there, and then I'm going to say MT for margin top, and this time it's going to be medium. So what this means is this space here and this space, this is exactly twice the space that we have above here. And this is a proper spacing scale, which is used by, pretty much all UI designers. Next, let me add a button here. So I'm going to click on this plus button and search for my button module. And here we go. So now you notice that everything I'm going to add in here is going to zero out the spaces. I can now go in by clicking here on this gear icon. And then over here on the advanced, I'm going to say MT for margin top. And I'm going to go medium as well. So my spacing now is very clean and it's proper and it follows the spacing scale. Next, let's say you want to add, some sort of heading or custom heading here. You can now use, we're going to come over here, System ID and classes. So we are going to say SK heading. So as soon as I type SK, you can see now I've got 8XL, 7XL, and so on. So let's say we're going to go with 6XL, right? This is where now you can add even more classes to this. So I'm going to say fonts 800 because I want to make it, a bit more bold, right? And at this stage, you can also say text color, text, and then you can say either accent or, so let's say text accent, and this is where your text colors come in. Now it's very light, as you can see, and you can go all the way up to very, very dark. Okay, so that's your text accent color. Okay, so now, your fonts pretty much are all set. Where did this come from? Okay, at any point, if you want to change this to maybe 7XL, you can just go ahead and do that. And all these are pretty much working great. Now, if this is the size you're going to use for all your headings across the whole website, again, go ahead and set this as a preset. Okay, great. Next, let's go to our backgrounds. So for this background section here, I'm also going to set my size. So I'm going to come over here to advanced, System ID and classes. So for section, I'm going to say section padding M. So now it's given my design some breathing space. So if this is going to be the spacing you're going to use across the whole website for majority of your sections, then go ahead and set this as a preset. So I'm going to say preset settings, section preset. So I'm going to say section, what should I call this? Medium. So I'm just going to call this M. So now you can see you have your section. My spacing here is correct and everything is responsive. Now let's test this. I'm going to save, do a quick preview, and let's go in and inspect this. Okay, so now if I try to make this smaller, you can see my text there is getting smaller. My spacing here is adjusted because all this is using variables. So you can see everything now works great on any device. And all this was done without actually going into the design tab to make any changes here. This will allow you to design your websites faster. And I hope this answers your question, Paul, Mr. PK. And also, if you want to add your own CSS, like I said, in fact, let's get out of here. And let's go back to our website. So I'm going to go to dashboard. Right. So if you want to add, all your CSS, you can come over here to appearance, theme file editor. And then I'm just going to say, I understand. This is the whole CSS. Okay. So if you want to make any changes, you can come in here, copy all this, and then take it over to Fluent Snippets. Come over here, paste it, and then make your custom changes. So this is why it's very important to have Fluent Snippets. And then, of course, our colors are going to be changed by making changes over here. So this is the file that you want to go in and make changes. But it is very, very important that you go in and clear the cache and make sure that all the settings are applied after that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you're not a member of Divi University, go ahead and sign up. It's absolutely free. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.